Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order a regular voting meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District on Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 6:03 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at Austin ISD's central office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T Uverse. Closed captioning in English is available on those platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Welcome and thank you. Our first item is under the President's Report. The work of Austin ISD is only possible through the support of our families and our fantastic staff and our community partners. And the district works to acknowledge all of the many important appreciation and acknowledgement weeks that help celebrate all the people who support Austin students every day. We're not always able to speak to each one, but we would like to highlight 3 tonight. And in light of the accountability ratings for 2023 that came out today, in light of the challenges our schools are facing meeting accountability standards by the state under the new metrics, we really want to thank each of those groups, especially for the role you play in amplifying the work that's done in our schools and in supporting our students' success. First is for all of the administrative professionals across Austin ISD. Yesterday was Administrators Professional Day, and the district celebrated all the workers who support our campus's front offices, greet parents, welcome students when they walk in the door after appointments or are late, and then ensure all the district's offices and campuses run smoothly. And the board is very thankful for the administrative professional who supports us. Ms. Laura Rocha. Ms. Rocha prepares board meeting minutes, assists all trustees with documents, meetings, travel, and so much more. Laura is the best den mother we could possibly have, so thank you for all that you do for us. We also want to recognize After School Professional Week, which is happening this week. And we know that when youth consistently attend high-quality after-school programs, we see increases in school day attendance, academic outcomes, including reading and math scores, social emotional development, including greater confidence and engagement in learning, and reduced behavior challenges in childhood and reduced risky behaviors in adolescence. Our partners, after-school partners, do amazing work. And one of our partners shared with the board that a recent longitudinal study that tracked youth from birth to age 6, a study called the Study of Early Child Care and Youth Development, showed that youth who consistently participated in after-school programs from elementary school through adolescence showed significantly better outcomes in adulthood, including higher educational attainment, income, and occupation status by age 26. So for all the people who are there after school to introduce our kids to new things, to support our kids, to keep them safe while parents work, thank you for all that you're doing. You are part of our success as well. And then finally, I want to thank all the volunteers in our schools as well who are doing so many things, from PTA to tutoring to a million different things. Thank you for the time you share and the commitment you have. And then I would also like to share that the administration is requesting to pull agenda item 11.7 and not vote on that item tonight. The board will consider that request during the consent agenda. Our next item is committee reports. We've posted the written committee reports as an attachment to this item on our board docs agenda. This includes a committee report for the board policy committee and the Austin Ed Fund. And the next item is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Boswell. I want to start by highlighting some student accolades from the past month. First, we have Patton Elementary. Patton Elementary was selected as one of only 25 schools nationwide to receive the 2025 Get Kids Cooking Grant from the Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation. More than 1,300 schools were nominated, so it's a pretty big deal. The $10,000 grant will support Patton's hands-on cooking and nutrition program, led by Eco Team Lead and PE teacher Danny Coons. Congratulations. Let's celebrate Brace Studelberg and Grant Brown from Doss Elementary School for their outstanding participation in the American Heart Association's Kid Heart Challenge. Brace raised $4,628, making him the #1 fundraiser in Central Texas. Grant followed behind, raising $1,577, placing him at #9 in the region. Both students were recognized with a letter of achievement from the American Heart Association, and their accomplishment was also featured across the American Heart Association's social media channels. We're so proud of their leadership and generosity in supporting heart health and making a difference in the community. Next up, Bowie High School students dominate the Texas Association of Journalism Educators 24-25 Best of the Best Awards, earning 9 top recognitions, more than any other school in the state of Texas. These awards represent the highest honors the Texas Association of Journalism Educators gives for individual students' work for more than 3,000 statewide entries. Elizabeth Yule earned Best of the Best in the print portfolio category and was also part of the Best team for election coverage. Additional winners include Peyton Dorsey, Liberty Pittman, Viva Lopez Stern, and Sam Bodie, Sarah Fowler, and Savannah Riggins. Several students placed as first through fourth runners-up in categories like design, photography, online packages, and writing. Congratulations. Next up, big congratulations to the Keeling Middle School archery team for their standout performance at the 2025 State NASP IBO 3D Challenge. The team took second place overall in 3D archery, setting a new school record, placed third in the bullseye competition. Individual achievements include Ellis Redmond, who finished fourth in 3D, Jackson Lathrop placed seventh in 3D, and Aiden Buckman earned seventh in bullseye. You can see them all right there. This is only the team's third year competing and second year in 3D, and they've already made their mark at the state and national level. Up next, they'll go to nationals at the end of this month. Good luck. 5 of our campuses were recognized with the first ever Austin ISD Gold Trash Can Award for their leadership in sustainability and waste sorting. Boone Elementary, Baranoff Elementary, St. Elmo Elementary, Lamar Middle School, and Lhasa High School. You can see the very creative trophies there. These schools were selected for their exceptional efforts in composting, recycling, and minimizing landfill waste with little to no contamination in their sorting. The award is presented by the Texas Disposal System and Austin ISD Sustainability, Food Service, and Custodial Services. To celebrate, each school will receive a golden trash can trophy, which you see there, a certificate of recognition, a high-energy, eco-themed live show featuring Mr. Eco and Eco Sista, promoting environmental awareness through music, movement, and literacy. Thank you to the students, staff, custodians, and food service teams for leading the way in making our schools more sustainable. In celebration of Earth Day last Tuesday, Cap Metro and Creative Action hosted the Art on the Bus unveiling ceremony at Leander Station, spotlighting students' artwork focused on sustainability. We got a big bus this year. Last year we had a smaller bus. It's quite impressive. This year's bus design featured students from 4 area school districts, including a talented group of 4th graders from Linder Elementary School in Austin ISD. A big congratulations to our student artists, David Ezequiel Martinez Velotoro, Gabriela Aponte de la O, Julian Emmanuel Chan Lopez, Sadie Webry, Jaden Abigail Monroy Alvarez, Camila Sofia Hernandez Rivera, Diana Diaz Banda, Juliana Mendoza, and a special thanks to Miss Karen Kai, Linder's art teacher, for guiding these students and helping them express their environmental vision through art. One of the really, really cool things that they actually took the rail line up there. So they were super, super sustainable that day. Their beautiful designs are now proudly rolling through Central Texas on Capital Metro buses. Next up, a huge congratulations to 8 seniors at Aikens Early College High School who are now officially certified medical assistants. These students went above and beyond, staying after school every Monday and even coming on their days off to complete a night and weekend MA certification program. Their dedication, resilience, and commitment to a future in healthcare is truly inspiring. We're proud to celebrate these students as they take the next step toward impactful careers in the medical field. Now, please join me in celebrating several talented Austin ISD students who are now officially published authors through the 2025 Austin PBS Kids Writers Showcase. Students submitted original creative writing pieces that are now featured on the PBS Kids website. A special thank you to Miss Claire McCord-Cadale from Galindo Elementary for sharing the incredible work of her dual language second graders, 21 of whom submitted stories in Spanish. And that concludes the accolades portion of the superintendent's report for today. And so I'm now going to transition into a school consolidations update. Our continued commitment of the administration is to provide our community and staff and our board updates as we move through this process. The first thing I'd like to point out is, as we work through this, we're always wanting to get to a stable state. And when we talk about stable state for an organization like Austin ISD, we want to have a multi-year balanced budget, have a healthy fund balance, but most importantly, protect the quality of education. One of the things that we've done, we can move forward, is really ensure that the process we move through leverages lessons learned from the past, whether it was previous processes or the long-range plan or the work that we've done in the community, and that was certainly the foundation for this work. And so what we wanted to communicate to our community was that we were developing an internal steering committee. These are comprised of leaders within the organization who I am going to hold accountable to ensure that the resources are deployed and the staff are supported to ensure that we hit each of our milestones along this project and this process. I also want to point out that for us it's very important that we identify a project manager for any large initiative. An example of a large initiative we're currently going through is the special education platform turnover. Joshua Junn, who's currently operating the presentation, is the project manager. And in this case, it'll be Dr. Rachel French, Director of Planning, who will serve as the project manager, ensuring that all of our milestones are hit, the deliverables are on time and of the highest quality. Next slide. As we met after our last board meeting, and we'll ensure that this document gets uploaded for all of our families to see. It is draft. We will continue to refine. We wanted to develop a comprehensive roadmap for what the consolidation process would include. When you look at the graphic, I want to kind of break it down into three different categories or phases. We have data collection, we have the analysis, and then we have finalization and approval. We are targeting November of 2025 for the conclusion of this effort, as I take our viewers and our board to the bottom right-hand corner, which will be the November 20th board meeting. And historically, the best practice for Austin ISD is to make any change regarding attendance boundaries or student movement to be done in the year prior to the actual move taking place. And so because we are looking at 26, 27 consolidations, we want to make sure that our families have the springtime of 2026 to ensure that the transition occurs safely, it occurs in a very thoughtful way. And so we want to make sure that we have all the work done, the transition plans completed, and everything agreed upon in November. We also want to make sure that our families and staff and community do not go into long breaks without clarity. And so we are always wanting to make sure before Thanksgiving break, before winter break, we have these milestones hit. It's never a good idea to not communicate before those long breaks. We want to always ensure certainty as best we can. If I can take our community and board to the left side of this graphic, where we are now is in April. We've had several, I guess 2 board meetings where we've talked about the work and the progression. We are in the project launch phase at the moment, building out the different protocols, the team, identifying different groups that will support the work, including principal work groups, DAC, and others. Again, none of this is finalized just yet. We're trying to get, present this as draft to get feedback and progress the work. We also wanted to communicate that there are lots of different data sets that could be used as part of this process. We have many of them already. There are others that we'll have to collect. But the work is around developing clean data sets. So at the time that we have to leverage the data sets, they're able to be used in the analysis itself. We do plan on coming back to the board in an information session in early May to discuss priorities and guardrails to help inform the work, making sure that our trustees' direction is brought into the process. At that point, we will begin building the development of the tool, which will be a series of rubrics that will really aim to take all the work and the feedback and the input to develop a tool that will ultimately be used to analyze the different schools. We'll be bringing back that tool for final review at the June board meeting, so at the same time that we approve our budget. And then in July and August, we'll be analyzing. So we'll be taking the tool and we'll be analyzing all of our campuses, 116 of them, all of which will be analyzed. At that time, we don't have board meetings. It's a, schools are out. It's really a great opportunity for us to just get into the work and spend time working with the tool. The hope is to come back in August with updates to the board, get inputs and refine the analysis. And our current milestone that we're targeting is to have a list of all schools in kind of a ranked by potential for consolidation. This will be based on a percent identified very early on in the process. There isn't a number, there isn't a list. It's really just, we have 116 schools. We're going to analyze the top 30 based on the rubric. Do a deep dive into those campuses, understand the transition, staffing plans, mobility, what could work, what may not work. Be very thoughtful and ensure that all of our values are represented not only in the analysis but also in the transition planning work. And so that will lead us into the late fall semester and ultimately for an approval in November. Now, what I do want to point out is there is a lot of data and a lot of work that goes behind this, hundreds of tasks, and we're committed to providing updates along the journey. We are also developing a comprehensive communication engagement plan to ensure that we're engaging with our community, we're getting input, we're using that input and informing the plan as we move forward. So just wanted to provide an update to our community and to our board regarding the work around this effort, and certainly happy to take any questions at the appropriate time, but wanted to provide that overall update.
Thank you.
And that concludes the superintendent's update. Thank you.
Thank
President
you,
Boswell.
Superintendent Segura. Yes, can you please introduce the next item, 4.2, the Dobie Middle School plan?
Absolutely. I'd like to welcome Dr. Angel Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, Brandy Hosick, Chief of Talent Strategy, Dr. Jacob Reach, Chief of Governmental Relations and Board Services, as well as Carolyn Hanshin, Executive Director of Campuses and District Accountability. And they collectively will provide the Dobie Middle School 25-26 turnaround plan update.
Thank you, Superintendent Segura and Board of Trustees. So today we want to walk through the Dobie's turnaround plan and give a current update on where we're at and why we're bringing forward a turnaround plan. So first we want to talk a little bit about the accountability history, give a timeline update, and then we'll talk next steps for Dobie and future actions for Dobie. So we want to start with giving a bit more information on the turnaround plan and reasons for identification. And so the Texas Education Code actually requires that a campus that does not meet a performance standard under the state's accountability system must create, gather approval, and implement what they call a targeted improvement plan. And we typically refer to that as a TIP. And you'll hear that over and over again, that a campus has a TIP. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, we brought forward our TIPs for board approval for many of our campuses. If a campus has been identified as unacceptable under the state accountability system for 2 consecutive years, then the commissioner is required to order that campus to prepare and submit what they call a campus turnaround plan. And we will always refer to that as a TAP. So a TAP is a more rigorous and in-depth version of the TIP that looks at a turnaround strategy that must be implemented for that campus. So state law and the commissioner rules also indicate how federal accountability can lead to these similar accountability interventions, including a TIP and a TAP. The federal accountability, which is required under the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, measures a campus and district performance in the closing the gaps domain under the state accountability system. So that's domain 3. For federal identification, schools in the bottom 5% of the state are then provided federal sanctions. Dobie Middle School was identified for comprehensive support and improvement, which is one of the federal labels, in 2019, 2023, and 2024. Due to COVID, there was no, actually the label from 2019 carried over. In those other years, they did not issue new labels during those years. One thing that I would like to ask my colleague, Ms. Hanshin, to explain is some of the timeline and conversations that we had with TEA around this targeted improvement plan, when it was shared with us and the first steps that we took.
When ratings were held up by litigation in August, there was not a lot of clarity about whether federal labels would also be released at that same time. They decided that the federal labels were not covered by the hold on the ratings issued for the A to F ratings for campuses. And so it was late. It was after the August 15th date that they usually release federal labels. But in the fall, the TEA did release comprehensive support labels and other labels for federal accountability. They did not at that time release the sanctions that applied to those labels. They were still trying to determine state ratings, and they were trying to decide what they were going to do with those federal labels. But on December 19th, we got a letter stating that Dobie was one of the schools required to do a turnaround plan. And normally those plans, you have an entire year to develop that plan and implement it in the next year. When we got the notice of that turnaround plan, we had read the SO waiver and the accountability manual, and we felt that sanction did not apply to Dobie. We felt like they were accelerating that sanction by a year, and we communicated with TEA our concern and copied the law and put it into our letters and had some conversation back and forth. But in mid to late January, they said that they were aligning the federal labels with the state labels, and they had a prerogative to do that, so that we were required to do a turnaround plan, and we decided at that time to go ahead and commence with writing a turnaround plan for Dobie.
So as I shared earlier, Dobie was identified for the federal accountability because their closing the gap score overall was in the bottom 5% of middle schools in the state of Texas. And in a second, I'll also go through the state accountability for Dobie. But before I do, I want to share what are those next steps around accountability. So once a turnaround plan is submitted, the commissioner then starts a review of that turnaround plan. And the state law currently requires that or states that the commissioner may review a campus turnaround plan and approve it only if the commissioner determines that the campus will satisfy all student performance standards required not later than the second year the campus receives a performance rating following the implementation of a campus turnaround plan. So in simple terms, that means that we submit the plan, the commissioner makes a determination on whether he or she believes that that plan will satisfy the accountability needs of that campus, and then approves it. That happens in 1 year. Then that next year begins year one of implementing that turnaround plan, and then that next year would be year two. The idea being that in those 2 years, we will turn around that campus and either improve the closing the gaps or improve the overall accountability, hopefully both, during that time. However, we also have a state accountability rule, which I have listed up here, which is 39A111, that states that if a campus is considered to have an unacceptable performance rating for 5 consecutive school years, the commissioner shall appoint a board of managers to govern the school district or order the closure of the campus. And so part of the timeline that we've been working with Dobie is trying to understand how this federal accountability and federal turnaround plan that we were ordered to create is going to align with the rest of the education code and the requirements under accountability. So now I'd like to give more of an update on just Dobie's accountability rating. To be clear, this is our state accountability rating. Dobie was originally indicated because of their federal rating, and that was the bottom 5% for closing the gaps. Today, the state has released our 2023 accountability rating, and as we look at this chart, and we'll kind of walk along it from left to right, Dobie currently now has a second F. So looking at 2019, that was the last year prior to COVID to where STAR was administered. And it was also the first year that the state of Texas used an A through F system. Dobie received an F in 2019. 2020 was COVID. We did not administer STAR anywhere, so there was no accountability either for that year. In 2021, STAR was administered, but the testing rates overall were very low across the entire state and Austin ISD, and the state made the determination not to issue accountability. So we did receive STAR results for the students who took it, but we did not receive an accountability rating. In 2022, it was the expectation that all schools would again take the STAR test, but during that time, Senate Bill 1365 passed the Senate and the House, which created new rules for this year only, or that year only, 2022, that stated that any campus that received a grade or an F would instead be provided a label not rated. And that not rated would also put a pause on any accountability sanction. Now, if an accountability sanction would continue, but it would not start or end any other accountability sanction. Now, if an A or a B or a C were received that year, that would end an accountability timeline. During that year, Dobie did receive a not rated, and their overall score was a 59. 20 was the score that was released today. Dobie received another F, which then brings us to that second F overall. The reason I want to share this and go through the timeline is because we're now back to the language that I just shared about the original timeline for a turnaround plan, that after 2 years, the commissioner then orders a turnaround plan. Typically, you would plan for 1 year and then implement for 2. That would potentially bring you up to 5 years, which brings us back to that state accountability language of after 5 years, the commissioner must take an action. So the idea being that within that time frame, the campus would have turned around and met accountability standards. However, what we know is that our 2024 ratings are still on hold because of litigation. And we currently do not have a timeline on when we may get a decision in that case from the state court. Also, we are currently in our 2025, and while we do not know the overall score yet, we are still trying to project scores for our campuses. So overall, looking at our history of accountability with looking at a known factor of 3 Fs in a row if 2024 gets released, and the potential of 4 once 20.
Good evening. As Dr. Reed shared, we have updates to our timeline as recent as Dobie Middle School turnaround plan submission. On Wednesday, TEA shared new guidance for Texas schools in similar positions as Dobie, saying that districts no longer needed to turn in federal accountability plans by April 30th. Instead, we now have until June 30th to submit a plan based on state accountability. This new deadline gives us more time to consider the feedback that we've received and to more deeply explore options for Dobie's future. So this slide was previously explained at our last board meeting by Superintendent Seguda, and it has since been updated to capture all actions taken specifically for Dobie Middle School, including our LASSO grant submission and other measures to the extent of the knowledge that we had with state plans for intervention and next steps with campuses. I won't go through every single item that is outlined under the different months, but I will provide a general overview. So in December, we met with Dobie Middle School on campus as a district leadership team, and we began the dialogue, receiving more feedback on strategic support and improving student outcomes. We also held community meetings at other high priority middle schools between the months of December 2024 and January 2025. In March 2025, TEA, when we were informed that we were to write a turnaround plan, which had to be implemented by August of 2025. This means that our previous TAP strategies will no longer be viable to be approved within the compressed timeline. So there were several actions taken in the month of April with community engagement at both our middle school and recent updates being sent to both communities as recent as yesterday evening. So we now have a slightly longer runway with submitting a turnaround plan for Dobie, which is required due to their federal label, CSI, Comprehensive Support and Improvement. Dobie is now on the same timeline that Burnett and Webb Middle School would be on. Our plan is to submit all turnaround plans by June 30th, 2025. These plans must show comprehensive systemic improvement. We will present these turnaround plans during the board meeting information session on May 8th with a potential vote on turnaround plans at our June 12th meeting. The last day to submit turnaround plans to the Texas Education Agency is June 30th. The state will share its approval or notice of resubmission of turnaround plans by July 18th, 2025. Throughout this process, we are engaging in collaborative efforts to ensure we are building a cohesive plan that shows comprehensive systemic improvement. All right, the next slides give a high-level overview of the key components that will guide the development of our school improvement strategies and turnaround plan implementation for campuses that are identified. Each component requires a district commitment and intentional efforts from all departments in strategic ways to support each area for the campus. So if you take a look at this slide, these are the key components that we plan to include, and these are the 5 levers or essential models that we see for teaching, learning, and leading, and this is also as it is reflected in the Effective Schools Framework or ESF framework. This framework, based on years of educational research of best practices, identifies 5 levers essential for success in school outcomes. They also are guiding principles to support district commitments and planning in the areas of strong school leadership, strategic staffing, positive school culture, high-quality instructional materials and assessments, and effective instruction. Lever 1 is strong school leadership, and this empowers effective campus leaders with resources to drive student outcomes and foster a culture of high expectations. Strong school leadership and careful planning encompass and ensure each of the other 4 levers. Strategic efforts include developing campus instructional leaders with clear roles and responsibilities, having a compelling school vision, mission, and goals that are aligned with high expectations and rigorous instruction, and having a focused plan with regular monitoring of implementation and success outcomes. Lever 2 prioritizes the retention of effective, well-supported teachers by strategically recruiting, selecting, assigning, and developing educators to ensure all students have access to high-quality instruction. Under Lever 3, the focus centers around fostering a safe and inclusive environment with social emotional support and enhanced student engagement strategies. Strategic efforts include transparent school-wide behavior expectations and routines, preemptive and adaptive student support services, and family and community involvement and engagement. Lever 4 prioritizes the need for consistent implementation of a rigorous curriculum with evidence-based teaching strategies and ongoing job-embedded professional development. This means daily use of high-quality instructional materials and assessments. At the core of effective schools is effective instruction. Interactions between students, teachers, and content determine learning outcomes. This instructional core is strengthened and supported by strategic staffing, high-quality instructional materials and assessments, and positive school culture. This lever supports ongoing embedded professional development through observation, feedback, and time to reflect and adjust instruction based on student needs. Strategic efforts include effective classroom instruction and professional development, supporting teacher growth through structured cycles of observations and targeted feedback, and data-driven instruction and multi-tiered systems of support. All right, this concludes our presentation, and we're now ready for questions.
Trustees, do we have any questions? Trustee Singh.
I want to thank you all for this presentation. I do have a couple of questions. One is if we can pull up the timeline. I believe there was a timeline related to okay. So there's a couple of things in here that I would love for the superintendent to consider adding to this. One would be, well, one of the things that we talk about in Lone Star governance a lot is, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. And the way I think about adult behaviors are like the inputs into a school that make it successful. And one of the things that I think would be really helpful that I've been hearing from the community as well is when you see like a Dobie getting an F rating, I don't really view that as Dobie getting the F rating. I view that as AISD getting an F rating for that campus. And so I just want to, but I don't know what that means in terms of the supports that we're giving to that campus. So, for example, for any time we say a school has this rating, I almost feel like we need another rating that grades us on, like, staffing. Are we making sure that that school is fully staffed? What is the principal experience? Do they have an active PTA? Is dual language being implemented with fidelity and all those things? And so we're only looking at the end result of our efforts. We never really grade ourselves on the inputs that go into that. And so I'm just wondering if that's something that we could build into our timeline. I think that really helps us know where we need to invest when we look in our budget. It helps us make more equitable decisions. I know this is something that I've heard Dr. Hawley talk about repeatedly with the the characteristics of successful schools. I can't remember the exact name of it, but she's done the research to identify what those characteristics are, but we don't really assess our schools using that lens. So there are things that we can measure as inputs to these campuses. And so I think it's really helpful when we see their grade given by TEA to have next to that a grade that we give ourselves on some of these key levers that we know lead to high student outcomes.
Trustee Singh, as an administration, we track key performance indicators across all divisions, and it's something that we've implemented for the last 18 months, and that would be after 22-23, just given the accountability we're talking about. But we do track inputs, outputs, because we know that if we track outputs, outcomes will move. All the data you just asked for, we have. I think we've submitted it to the board by way of board update. We can certainly make that public. We track vacancies, we track vacancy rates, we track work orders, we track the amount of professional development that's been deployed, we track just-in-time professional development when curriculum is being introduced. All of these things we track. And we also create key performance indicators to understand how our Band 1 schools, and again, these are the schools that have high percentage of students who have been identified as historically underserved versus those that have smaller populations of students. And we're always wanting to make sure that we don't have variances, or in fact, the opposite is true, where the system begins to heal and you don't see variance between the bands of schools. An example that we track is like attrition between Title I and non-Title I schools, or attrition between Band 1 and non-Band 1 schools. And so a year and a half ago, attrition between those two school types was almost 20%. Now it's less than 1%. So we have all those metrics. We do have parameters we set for ourselves. As far as a grade, I would have to really think and maybe work with the board to understand how we would grade that. But I can tell you that we do have KPIs that we track. And one of the things that we've seen, and certainly true at Dobie, that many of the outputs have improved significantly. And those things have to be sustained over a period of time in order to get outcomes to move. The grade part, I'd have to really think about, but I will, and I'm certainly happy to post the documents that I previously provided to the board to board docs, so everybody kind of sees like all the different data sets that we track and the performance indicators that we use to ensure, like you said, that we do have the right inputs and outputs, and we are tracking them in the right way.
I really appreciate that, and it doesn't have to end up like in a nice, easy letter grade, because I know that that's almost impossible to do, but at least allowing us to see and acknowledge where we have made investments in the inputs, and because I know that our attrition has decreased dramatically under your leadership, and a number of other things, but if we could sort of come to a mind on what those items are, that the community and the administration and the board really want to pay attention to. It doesn't have to be a laundry list of like 50 items, but maybe there's like a short list of 10 or so that we are consistently looking at, like these are the key levers. I don't know if other trustees want to chime in. If I'm the only one interested in it, then maybe that's not worth the investment, but if others are also, I'd be curious to know.
Thank you, Trustee Singh. Trustee Hunter.
Thank you, Trustee Singh. I'm going to piggyback on what you just said. I know that we say that we offer, we have all these spaces, but having 5 extra FTEs for whomever and one for a counselor, if it's not filled, it's not doing anybody any good. I've really been sort of struggling with this week about what's going to happen. And I appreciate the update. It gives us some more information. I literally was able to breathe when I found out we had, June is when when it has to be turned in. Of course, we're not waiting to the last minute, but because we have more time, the superintendent and I spoke on Wednesday during our one-on-one, and the one thing that I ask is we have these 3 choices. I believe as a parent said, all 3 of them feel like settling, and that I asked the superintendent to please dig deep for a 4th choice, that 4th choice, keeping Dobie in place, keeping it where students can, but there's a caveat. So the work that the district has to do to keep Dobie in place, there may have to be some changes, and the superintendent's gonna work through all of that with his team or what have you. I'm one, I'll have a vote, but I just cannot do anything else that would not keep Dobie in place. People are like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Yes, I'm betting all on orange, right? I'm putting it all in on orange. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hunter. We have Trustee Diodioste.
So I think it would be good for the audience to clarify, looking at this, the information that we're conveying here, does this just, the extra time falls out of the sky? This was something that was going on? How do we get here? Because we've put the community through a lot.
So to be clear, the timeline that we were on was for federal accountability, and that was given directly to us by TEA. Line that was told to us. One of the things that we recognized was that the timeline to develop a turnaround plan, which is typically a year and then 2 years to implement, was not something that was given or provided to us in response to the federal accountability timeline. And so one of the things that we as a team were advocating for, and there were multiple conversations with the agency, was around having the timeline for federal accountability align with state accountability. In that way, we could think about a comprehensive improvement effort for multiple schools over a region, opposed to just looking at different solutions in isolation. And given the fact that each of these efforts, whatever it may be, is resource intensive, it was going to be maybe a less than ideal solution if we did kind of parse it out. So we spent time, we reached out to the agency multiple times, got some feedback that, they'd have to consider it, and we weren't notified until just this week that a timeline, or that request of being tied to state accountability was going to be the accepted approach. And so that is really what allowed us to move into this new timeline. As Trustee Hunter just mentioned, though it is an extension, there are lots of things that have to get done before June 30th. And so our expectation is that we would come back well before then. So anyway, that's the response.
Well, and so I'm asking some clarifying questions here because, I'm new, I'm getting to know you on the board. How likely did you think it was that this could happen?
I thought it was a pretty low probability that we'd be able to get it on the same timeline. I'm sorry, can you hear me? So back when we started this effort and when we were having the conversation with the Dobie community, And as of 2 weeks ago, I thought it was probably a 15-20% chance that we would be successful in getting the timeline adjusted. So very appreciative of the opportunity to have this align with something that works better. Certainly doesn't, doesn't go back to traditional timelines, but it is an improved timeline. So it was a low probability, I thought, of success of getting the timeline adjusted.
So I'm going to take a moment to kind of transition this to the community and the people that are watching. So, one of the things I kind of campaigned on was the communication piece and trying to get things, a little more clear for the public. And so what I'm hearing here and the way I'm interpreting this is this was an extremely long shot to get this type of approval in. And it kind of speaks to the district and to the superintendent and the leadership that TEA would allow for this, that they would go ahead and say, okay, we think we can give them more time and allow for this alignment with the other things. The other part, though, piggybacking on Trustee Hunter, that I want to be clear is this doesn't make it easier. It doesn't say that there's less work. It just moves the timeline a little bit back so that we can be more thoughtful with the work that we're doing. And, one of the things I wanted to point out is, so we had Lamar, Dobie, there's things going on at Ann Richards. We got 2 other schools that this is now aligning with the timelines for those. If people aren't catching on, this is a district-wide concern that everybody needs to pay attention to. And so as much as I appreciate everybody that's here, I appreciate all the emails that we got, I want to point out, I got a few emails that were not from families from either of those campuses or for any of these concerns, that were from other families in the districts weighing in. And, I was very grateful for getting those emails, and it showed that at least, some of the district is aware that this is a larger issue, that it's going to affect other schools, that, that there's a lot of work to be done here. And so I don't want to, just get caught up in the fact that we got a little bit more time, obscuring the fact that there's a lot still to be done, and it's not just about 1 or 2 campuses. It's about the district coming together around what we're going to need to do to get ahead of these issues, because, again, this is just a little bit more time for us to be more thoughtful on the planning, which is great, and it's really encouraging that we were afforded that time, but there's still a lot of work that needs to get done, and it needs to be a community effort. And so as much as people are emailing and saying, are you seeing the emails, are you getting the messages, I want to be clear that we are, and that working on communicating these pieces is really important. So, I want to acknowledge the stress and, burden that was put on all these campuses to go through this process, and we were going to meetings, talking to y'all. That work wasn't wasted. We're still going to be using that, and it's still part of the process that we're going through. And as Trustee Hunter said, I was relieved to hear that we bought some more time, because I think it is thoughtful work that needs to happen. It's still really short. It's still not as much time as we should deserve to do this work. I just wanted to call that out. I want to thank, the people that have emailed, the people that have showed up. I want to thank the people, that were from other campuses that were emailing us. I was really, really heartened to see that other people were paying attention to what was going on at these campuses. And thank you again for helping us get the extra time.
Thank you. Trustee Hoffman.
I want to go back to the question that Trustee Singh was asking, just around the inputs and what kind of efforts we've made to improve. The timeline that you presented starts last fall, but we've been aware of the academic status of Dobie since 2019. So I just wanted to clarify a couple things before I ask that question. Do I understand correctly, and do I remember correctly, that Dobie had acceptable or not failing ratings for the 10 years plus prior to 2019?
They did meet standard the year prior. That was under the old accountability, so it'd be IR and meet standard, improvement required and meet standard. They did have some improvement required in there, but I don't remember the exact what year was what, but they were met standard in 2018.
Okay. So this is a community and a school that has a long track record of making it, right, of hitting, not necessarily at the level that we want to provide for all of our students, but this school has traditionally met the expectations for the state accountability system prior to 2019. Okay. And then since 2019, the 5-year rule where the commissioner is obliged to appoint a board of managers or close the school. That's new since 2019 also, right? That started in 2021 or that?
21, that's correct.
So this is another one of those things where this accountability system was patched onto existing, right? It's another example of changing the rules in the middle of the game, right? And I think that's what happened in Houston, right? Is that the 2021 law is what was applied to Houston to allow the takeover. Is that correct?
That's correct for a high school of theirs.
Okay, so just wanted to put those out there. But then going back to Trustee Singh's question about the inputs. So knowing, right, that the academic performance wasn't what our students deserved in 2019, I do not believe that the efforts to make improvements from the district's investments didn't start until a turnaround plan was contemplated last fall. So could you speak to, I don't need a grade or a list, I'm just curious, what have been the efforts in AISD since 2019 to address the needs of Dobie Middle School and the other schools in the Runberg area?
I'll answer, and then I'll let anyone else add on to it. So I'll start from a very high level first with district level supports. I know Superintendent Seguda has spoken about this many times, but just so the community and the public hear, there was a district created school resource index that was created for the sole purpose of helping campuses like Dobie. So Dobie is considered a Band 1 campus, and these campuses are prioritized for additional support from all central office departments. Then we go to strategic staffing. This is another thing that Dobie received, which is 1.5 instructional coach FTEs from the district set aside 2 contracted special education teachers to support with the vacancies that were currently on campus, and then a reading and math content interventionist allocation. Now, this allocation was received late fall because it was contingent upon Proposition A passing. We were very happy that Prop A passed because we were able to get those content intervention allocations. Because we want to keep our highly effective teachers in the classroom, it's very hard right now to recruit mid-year, but we plan on those positions being staffed by the end of this school year, this summer, so that Dobie starts off strong next school year. Another resource, Elevation. This is something that our executive director team brought to us, that there were a band of campuses. This includes Burnett and Webb, Betachek, and a few more middle schools that really needed support with being able to service and provide resources for our students that are identified as emergent bilingual. We did not want the schools to be able to use their funds because they're limited with funds and resources, and so we asked for the executive director of Title I, Christy Fox, to be able to find funds for us. She was able to find that with Title III funds to support our emergent bilingual students, and we were able to provide teacher PD and training this year with Elevation resources, and then also an additional component that was opened up, and this will help us out a lot with TELPAS. So we hope to see the evidence of this training and the evidence of the resources that were provided for these 8 middle schools for the 2025 STAR results and TELPAS scores. Also, strategic coaching and support with school leadership and academics. So our executive directors, we tier campuses. Dobie is one of our highest tier campuses. This means that they have increased visits weekly from our executive directors. There are some campuses that may receive biweekly supports. A school like Dobie receives support at least once a week at the minimum, but more than that. And we're able to operationalize other departments, such as our MET department, our academics department, and our school leadership teams to be able to help and support in that work. As far as PLC support, Solution Tree PLC is a PD that was funded by our academics team, and they receive ongoing coaching and support and also a team of leaders as well as teachers being trained in that, and then regular ongoing support through implementation of that process. Behavior support, we saw that this was a need at Dobie Middle School, and so we enlisted our MTSS team with Crystal Kohoff. She was able to identify a training that we sent the administration team to last school year for school culture and climate, and we also have character strong implementation that we've strongly encouraged for implementation of this, and so Dobie is one of those schools that receive support for Character Strong. And then we have other partners that we've enlisted for supports. When we have people that come to us and say, hey, we want schools, what schools can we go to that may need tutors or this or that, our first answers are always our Band 1 campuses and our campuses that are the most in need of whether it's academic or behavioral support. So Dobie receives API math coaching classroom. In the classroom, we have communities in schools there, 21st Century Community Learning Centers and school programming. We have Austin Voices, Carry for for Kids, which is Council on At-Risk Youth, Seedling Foundation, UT Project Meals, and then also our Middle School Forward Initiative. So this is something that we just initiated this school year with the support of Superintendent Segura leading this work. We noticed that this is not a Dobie problem, but we noticed that across the district, we see some gaps in areas of opportunity for middle schoolers when they transition from elementary to middle, and then also to support the vertical when we send our middle schoolers to high school. So the Middle School Forward Initiative is a comprehensive, robust plan. One component of the plan involves all middle schools. A second component involves 8 middle schools that we've identified, and the third component involves our 5 most immediate needs of schools of support, and that, of course, is Dobie, Webb, Burnett, Bedichek, and Sadler Means.
In the fall, the scorecard was really to develop a comprehensive plan for Dobie that was multi-year, right? We actually met at Dobie, we met with staff, and we took in ideas, and we were really trying to think through, like, what could we do that really embraced the culture of the community, leveraging our incredibly talented students, and that all aspects, a whole child solution was going to be required, whether it's fine arts or athletics or after school, really dialing it in and recognizing that, yes, we are constrained in resources, but with a thoughtful approach, we could allocate the resources given that we already put the system in place to evaluate schools differently, right? The band, this SRIs. And so when we think about where we are now, taking those components and including them and incorporating them into our plan, of which is going to consider all the elements that TA requires, for sure. We want to make sure that we are responsive, that we recognize that outcomes do have to move, but it's so much more than just that plan. And so there are expectations. We will certainly be compliant, but the plan for Dobie and for any school will be so much more than that. We do have financial needs, so it'll be a kind of a full city commitment to get to where we need to be. But we can do it, and we can do it our way. And I'm encouraged with just all the support that we've had and the ideas that have really come about that we're going to be able to incorporate.
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And is there a place, people have been asking what we're doing in our middle schools specifically, because I know that is an area, has long been an area where we haven't served our students well, where we have had that extra need, where we've tried a lot of things that haven't. And I feel optimistic that so many systems and resources and different ways of doing it are in place. Just everything that you shared a minute ago. Is there a place the public can find that plan posted on our website, or could we put it on our website so people can have a deeper understanding of the work that is being done, that's anticipated, and some of the work that's going to need, as you have said, to escalate, to accelerate, to get where we need to be?
Yeah, I'm happy to work with Ali, our Chief of Communications and Engagement, to identify a landing page for all the work. It's one of these things where the initiatives themselves will carry on with different components that incorporate the work that we're going to take on. But it's so much bigger than that, right? And it's so much longer than just a year or two. It's really 5-year plans. And so as we develop the documents, they're very robust. I think you've seen the early childhood initiative, at least in short form. And so we can certainly place that. They're in draft form. The idea is that as we build them, we get input, we refine, and we improve. So they are living documents. But yeah, I can definitely work with the team here and get kind of a distillation of those on the website. The documents themselves are very, very dense. So we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Trustees, any further questions on this?
I had another
Trustee Singh.
question. Yeah, and it was actually related to a different item. It's part of the superintendent's report. It was the, when you were talking earlier about the potential consolidation plan and that timeline, I'm wondering if we could just pull that up real quick as well, because I don't believe that's in board docs. Oh, it's attached to the accolades? Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Is it okay for me to talk about if that was a previous thing? Okay. Okay. So just again, with that timeline, one of the things that would be really helpful as well, and I don't know if this is something that you all consider, but just thinking about 2019 and the school consolidations we did at that time, I think one of the learnings for me is it's really helpful to have some sense of what, well, two things. One is being able to see what a new modernized school looks like. And because we didn't have that in 2019, and because of the great work that the district did to, pass our bond and really get those schools modernized, we can now actually have an opportunity for people to see, oh, my kid could be at a school that looks like this. It doesn't have to be such a punishing thing to have your school closed necessarily, if people know what's possible. Because so that would be one thing, and I don't know if that's something that could be built into this as part of the community engagement. And then the other thing was around thinking about how our campuses that are vacated, how they could be used in the community, and we haven't really talked about that too much, but that if we really think about, okay, well, where are the childcare deserts, or where are the housing deserts, or, where, whatever, maybe the question is not which schools do we consolidate, but a greater question might be, what does this community need right now, and what is the best use for this piece of land or this building? And that might help create a more productive conversation. And so I don't know where that fits in here, but that's just something that I would hope to see.
So Trustee Singh, we've thought through that. This is a higher level roadmap, so you're not going to see all the different tasks in it. I think what's going to be really helpful is when we have the conversation in the information session in May, we can have the dialogue around kind of how we would interpret that, because one of the things I want to be very clear is there's always, using that as an example, would you ever use the identification of what a tract of land could be used for as the reason for consolidation? Or is it you identified a school for consolidation and then you say, okay, what other uses could this school be used for? And so one is always going to be the catalyst, and one is going to be kind of the response as you think about transition and long-term management. And so I think when we have the conversation on an information session, we can tackle it. We are thinking about it. I have lots of ideas about how to do it. I just want to make sure is it part of the decision-making process, or is it, as the decision is being made, these are the list of opportunities that could exist, and be honest about it early on. So more to come, but yes, we are thinking through that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Quintana.
Thank you for this. I'm looking at slide, I don't know, actually. I'm looking at the slide that has the turnaround timeline with April, May, and June, and I don't see any dates on here for a meeting at the school or in our community. So I was wondering, I'm sure we're going to have some. So I was wondering if that could also be added to our new middle school website, along with any updates. I mean, if I would love to see just a lot of updates to where people are bored, when they're like, well, we don't need to know that you changed a screw in the hallway, and you know what I'm saying? That's what I'd like to see.
So what we'll do is, after tonight, and take input from this conversation here, update our documents, make them available online, and lay out the upcoming community meetings and the conversations that we'll have with these communities as well as others. I wouldn't want to necessarily include them in the larger middle school initiative, because the only reason I would say that is because this is going to be updated, and we're going to update continuously over the next multiple weeks. The long-term initiatives are, kind of, months, for multiple years. So I want to have one location where families and staff and everybody can go, like, for these efforts, they're going to be here. We will tie them back, but I want one location for them to be, to make it hyper clear that this is what we're tackling. So we're happy to do that.
Thank you. Trustee Foster.
Going back to the turnaround plan conversation. So when we look at key components of a turnaround plan, and we see on slides 11 and 12, Key components include strong school leadership, strategic staffing, positive school culture, high-quality instructional materials and assessments, effective instruction. I'm all in. This is good stuff, proven stuff. And there's something that's sort of implicit in some of our conversation, but I think it needs to be perhaps lifted up and made explicit around school is an island, that it's part of a rich tapestry and it's part of an ecosystem. So that if we're talking about a turnaround plan and we're invited into we're powerfully invited into this narrow look at the one. And I kind of think that leads us potentially down a sort of not so great path, because we stop thinking vertically and what's happening in our elementary schools, and we stop thinking, you know, up and down the line. I see a lot of heads nodding, so I'll just leave that point. So I think that should be part of the conversation. But there also needs to be a conversation about, we'll call it the horizontal school, getting into scary stuff, about the relationship across our high schools, across our middles, across our elementary schools. There's lots of ways in which choices we made about approaches to staffing have implications. There's lots about how approaches we make in terms of admissions to select programs versus this is the comprehensive, that stuff has implications that we seldom discuss. And those things need to be discussed. And they're not always easy conversations, but there's a reality that needs to be leaned into. And I'll kind of leave that there. But the vertical, the horizontal, and then I don't have a pithy way to talk about the ways in which we work across agencies, industry partners, established partners, new partners, because one of our systematic problems is the not only systematic but strategic lack of support from the state. We ain't gonna make it if it's not Austin for Austin, with all sorts of interesting partners brought in dynamic ways, right? So when I go to some of our most beautiful campuses in terms of the grounds, oh look, we have this really dynamic partnership with this organization and with the city of Austin, and that's why the grounds look like this. And we have, you know, all these things going on. A lot of our things that we've done couldn't be done if it weren't for the county and the city and this, you know, these or those partners, Austin Voices, Communities and Schools, whoever. So as we embrace and just wrap ourselves around our possibilities for Dobie, our possibilities for Dobie have to be seen in a context of the possibilities for all, that we all will rise together. So the vertical, the horizontal, and the partnerships.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, thank you very much. Our next portion is public comment. We have more than 150 public comments. Oh, no, we're not. Public testimony is not. I know we're glitching. What is next on my? 4-3. Oh, accountability. Sorry, it is not public comment yet. But we're going to pause. Our systems are glitching. We need to pause and reset the system for 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm sorry to take a pause for everybody. Anyone who wants to go to the bathroom, there's one down there. But our systems are glitching and people can't see what's happening. If you're seeing the screens, they're coming in and out. And this is obviously an important meeting and we want everyone to hear the full conversation. So we're going to pause, let our technical people reset, and return in a few minutes. Thank you.